Okay, our fourth speaker is Stephen Phillips from AT&T Research. Stephen works on something, again, completely different from the rest of the group, which might be surprising that goes on at AT&T, which is on species preservation and land purchase to ensure such things. So, Stephen.
Thank you, Dave. So I want to start off asking a question, what are we sustaining exactly when we talk about sustainability? So far we've heard almost entirely a human perspective on this. We're preserving the human quality of life. The idea is to consume less, make more efficient use of resources, delay exhaustion of finite resources, all so that more people can drive well, eat well, and live in comfort today and in future generations, which is all good. There's an element of environmental conservation there, but primarily in the way that humans get services from the environment, so avoid climate change in order to avoid disruptions to human civilization. So I want to talk with a slightly different perspective on what we're sustaining, and that is we can think of sustaining the rest of life on Earth. We're currently living through the sixth great extinction of life on Earth. During our lifetimes, the number of species that may go extinct if current trends in habitat destruction continue will rival the loss of the diversity of life at the end of the Cretaceous, the end of the dinosaurs, and other major extinction events. And so my focus on sustainability is how can we computer scientists contribute to minimizing the loss of biodiversity during our lifetimes and after that. So the ways that we can contribute involve helping to understand how natural systems work, so that we can then help predict the effect of threats on these natural systems. Climate change we think a lot about in energy consumption, but this is only one of the major threats to life on Earth. Habitat destruction is still probably the greatest threat. Invasive species, overconsumption, and hunting are right up there too. And then once we have ways to predict the effect of these threats, we can help design and optimize strategies that mitigate those threats. I think that this is it's interesting not just from the perspective of what we can do to help the rest of life on Earth, but also it's a source of a rich collection of research problems in all areas of computer science, covering in the general topic of gathering and processing information, robotics and sensor networks. We are just beginning to learn some of the basic attributes of bird migrations because of miniaturization of sensors. The smaller sensors that you can put on migrating creatures, the more you can learn about how they behave. There's very interesting vision work being done to understand images of species. There are ecologists studying whales who use software to identify individuals from the pattern of nicks in their tails. There are people studying zebras who can identify the zebras from the patterns of zebra stripes, which are like our fingerprints, unique to the individual. There's a lot of work on distributed databases. A lot of information on biodiversity is in natural history museums scattered around the world. There's very interesting database research that's being done to bring all that information together for the whole ecology community to work with. There's interesting work on natural language processing. There's a system called BioGeomancer that takes written descriptions of locations of where species have been found, such as 50 kilometers northeast of Franklin, Alabama, and understands the text together with databases of where particular places are on Earth to get a latitude and longitude with an associated uncertainty. All kinds of interesting problems for theoretical and applied work in computer science. In terms of modeling, of course, lots of work on climate change, species distributions, I'll talk some more about, and then lots of optimization work to decide choices of how to help protect and manage natural resources. So 2 examples from my own work. The largest thing that I've been working on for the past 8 years or so is modeling species distributions given locations where particular species have been found, and matching those locations with environmental variables like precipitation, temperature, both at those locations and in the surrounding areas, the areas that the species were choosing from in order to decide where to exist. So this is really a machine learning problem. I have been working on both the theory and some software with Rob Shapiri and Miro Dudik. We wrote a piece of software called Maxent that's free on the web. It's been downloaded by more than 12,000 distinct users, and the papers that we've written describing what it is and why it does what it does have been cited more than 1,000 times. So this is a contribution of machine learning research that really makes a difference to the ecologists who are studying and trying to conserve these species. A second topic I've worked on is design and management of systems of protected areas. So optimization software is widely used in protected area design. Some famous examples of the uses for the Great Barrier Reef. These are important things where you see the results on the ground of the optimization work that's being done. The optimization problems are as hard as you want them to be. There are multiple competing objectives. There's dynamism because of the element of time. There's stochasticity, uncertainty, nonlinearities abound. And a particular example that I've been involved with is designing for climate change. So the idea is that species distributions are likely to change as the climate changes. And so when you're designing protected areas, you want to design not only to protect what's there now, but you want to give species a way to get from where they are to where they're going to likely need to be in the future. You need to plan for resilience, so you need to provide not just a single pathway for a species to get to the future, but multiple pathways. And this starts looking a lot like designing for fault tolerance in a telecommunications network. We're designing multiple pathways to allow for resilience against different kinds of failures. And my work involved applying the same tools that we use in telecom network design, network flow, integer programming, to design dispersal corridors for a family of flowering plants in South Africa called the Proteaceae. And so as I said, it's not just an interesting application, but it's full of very interesting problems for computer science researchers. The machine learning work on species distribution modeling involved a large number of issues, many of which arise in other machine learning problems. Some of them are unique to this application, problems of small amounts of data. Some of these species, they're just a handful of records, literally 4 or 5 records from which you need to make inferences. There are biased samples. There's a huge amount of potential predictor variables. You can, especially using remote sensing technology, you can measure thousands of things about the environment that a species lives in, and then you have to figure out which of those are relevant and important. And perhaps most importantly, transferability. If you make a model about what a species likes today, how can you say anything about whether those preferences are going to be maintained in the future under climate change, which is perhaps the most important use of these models. And then lastly, the question that I get asked most often when I talk about any of this is, why does AT&T care about this? What's in it for AT&T? My answer breaks down into three topics. First is that most large corporations recently have developed sustainability programs, most of them public claims, public profession of intent to support sustainability and to care about their sustainability. And some of the sustainability programs that large corporations use are naturally synergistic with their business. For example, if you save electricity by running your network more efficiently, it saves money for you, it helps your bottom line. And so supporting this kind of work is paying more than just lip service to sustainability. You're supporting work which you can't just say, oh, they're doing that because makes sense for them money-wise. It can be very useful for public relations. A couple of years ago, I had an article in Science on conservation planning in Madagascar, and AT&T has made quite a lot of use of the publicity from that. They developed a video which was used in a television commercial. It's used on the AT&T Labs research recruiting website to present to people who want to work for AT&T the idea that you have flexibility to work on cool things if you come to AT&T. It's going to be used next month in the TED conference. So I'll be in New Jersey at a telepresence site answering questions from people at TED in California looking at this video. And then lastly, one of the tenets of having basic research in a large corporation is that when you let people do the things that they're most interested in, they'll be developing things to solve problems which can then often be used for other purposes. So I worked on Maxent specifically to help model species distributions. And last year, some other researchers, some voice researchers at AT&T realized that the same software was very useful for some voice recognition technology, which is now being used by a company that's part owned by AT&T called Vlingo that makes an app for smartphones that uses voice recognition technology. Thank you.
Thank you.